making real estate easy. And you guys know I've been doing some lives lately because I want to be able to have conversations with you. And Mondays are typically my admin days, I call them. It's when I have the most meetings, the most updates, it's follow ups from what's been happening this weekend. And as a licensed realtor in Houston, Texas statewide, I have a unique perspective because I am able to actually take the headlines and make them real, meaning that I'm having real conversations with real people, we're writing real contracts, and we're actually hearing what people are saying. Yet the benefit of this conversation today is to, number one, give you an opportunity to drop in the chat where you are from. So if you're watching, go ahead and drop that in the chat. What questions that you have about what you're seeing where you are. If you let me know where you are from, it helps me get perspective, because one thing that we know for sure is that real estate is local. And so a lot of times what you're seeing that's happening, for example, I'm in Houston, Texas, what's happening in California, Las Vegas, DC, Virginia, Florida, they're all different markets. And so number one, I want to make sure that you guys have a local resource, especially as it relates to Houston real estate, and that you can come and chop it up with me. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. So of course I'm always going to be looking at my notes, the things that I've seen come across my desk. And here's the thing that I want to talk about. So you look at these headlines and people, I'm seeing a few different things on the internet, right? Number one, buyers are waiting for the crash. Now, here's the truth. People have been talking about a crash since 2012. And if you think about how much that delay has cost buyers, many of the buyers that could have purchased in 2012, 2015, 2020 even, sat on the fence waiting for something that may or may not happen. And what we have seen is that home prices have consistently appreciated conservatively at least 3.5% to 4%. And then of course we have outlier years like during the pandemic when rates were really low, that home prices in some areas appreciated by 10 and 15%. So let's kind of go ahead and give background to why that wasn't sustainable. Because like most buyers today, they feel like homeownership is no longer affordable. And a lot of that has to do with the rates. Yet here's the thing, when rates were low, people were able to let their money go further. And this is what I know. Most people are not buying a purchase price, right? They're buying what the payment can afford. It's just like when you go to a car dealership. What do they normally ask you? Do they ask you how much you want to spend on a car? Or do they ask you where you're looking to keep your payments between? And so that's the friction, that's the tension that home buyers and even sellers are experiencing in this market, because your budget, whatever the rate is, may be $3,000. And if that can't get you what you desire, then that's when people start talking about homes aren't affordable. Yet I do want to go ahead and, like I said, here's why that's important. We have to raise the rates, because if we didn't raise the rates and we kept the rates at 3%, they would have continued to exponentially increase the sales price, right? So raising the rates was a stabilizer, right? Like, okay, we can't just have people increasing in home prices. It's great if you own it, but it's not sustainable, right? So now we're going to talk about, number one, why it's important for you to lock in now. I released an article on my Substack. You guys can go find it on Chase Sloan on Substack about should I just give up on renting, right? The burnout matrix. And I talked about people that have been working to purchase a home, have gotten frustrated, and they're asking yourself, is it even worth it anymore? Let me share with you why. The clearest signal that we've seen this week, so I usually do a weekly review, is that Houston's still growing, yet the cost of ownership and the amount of competition buyers can choose from are becoming just as important as appreciation, right? And so here's the win for buyers. Buyers have less competition than they have in a couple of years. And because of that, because sellers still need to sell, builders still need to sell, they're walking away. Because what? Sushi is going to, yeah, whatever that says. Builders, sellers, they're offering more concessions than ever. I got my Monday emails, and I got builders right now that are buying down rates to 4%, 4.9%. And a lot of times that's an objection, right? People are like, oh, well, rates are too high. Yet what if I told you that there are ways to structure your contract to where you can buy down your interest rate, making that payment go a little bit further? And so what buyers are looking for, and this I know because I'm having conversations with them, is number one, when they are making that decision to buy, are they making a decision they're not going to regret? And so this is for my sellers. Sellers, Now more than ever is maintenance and upkeep to your property. And oh, by the way, you don't get bonus points for keeping your home up to standard. The roof, the foundation, um, the HVAC, the plumbing. These are the four things that most buyers are going to be concerned about. Sure, they may not like your carpets or your paint, but if you come into a structural issue, it's guaranteed to delay or decline your deal, right? And so what we want to be able to do, number one, is get buyers where the market is that matches their budget. If we can focus on that, then we're able to help them find the best buy. Okay, and there is a best buy for your budget. Now, homeowners, you may be asking, okay, but that doesn't apply to me. I got a house, I'm thinking about selling it. I met with a seller this weekend, and it's actually a pretty powerful conversation because she's moving into her retirement years, and she's going to be looking to sell her house. And she was like, I want this to set me up for the remainder of my years. And I think that's something that we don't always consider. A lot of times when we're talking about investment decisions, we're looking at right now. Like, what does our budget say today? And we're talking about rent prices and home prices today. And yet, I speak with a lot of people that are further along than us. I'm in my 40s. I work with sellers that are in their 60s and 70s, and I see the benefit of them being able to have assets that they can sell to fund their golden years. My client, my seller, she kept saying, I don't want to have to work at Starbucks when I'm 80. I don't want to have to work at Walmart when I'm 80. And my question is, are you thinking that far ahead, or are you just thinking about today? Are you just thinking about what you can afford today? What's convenient today? And it might work for right now, right? But you will grow up if God says the same, right? And we want to make sure that we're sowing seeds into our future self. We're setting our future self up to win just as much as we're looking at for our present day self. And so here's what changed from the last time that I was on here last week. You guys can check the previous live, hit the subscribe button. We talked about how home sales were up even though the days on market are longer. And so what that means, buyers, you guys have more time to make a decision. If you guys remember anything about 2022, it's like you had like 5 hours to make a decision to buy a real estate, right? And people were feeling like they were rushing into decisions, having to waive inspections, having to waive contingencies, and that's vulnerable for anybody. I don't care if it's your first home or your 100th home. Well, now we're in a market where you have not a lot of time, yet you have a bigger window to be able to find a home that fits your budget, that is the quality that you desire, while still being realistic on what your money can do. And so, so in Houston, we're seeing that prices are stable and yet continue to increase, right? They're not shooting up, but they're steady. I give you an example. I was looking to buy a new laptop, and I had been searching. I mean, you guys ever have like your Apple tab up and you keep going back to it, like looking at the same daggone MacBook, like maybe if you click on it, it'll be a different price, knowing good and daggone well they do not do discounts, right? So I had been like scoping out this MacBook that I'm looking to purchase, and I mean for a long time, like through the summer, second quarter, all these things. And I don't know, like last month or something like that, they had a price increase. And so now the same laptop that was expensive to me 2 months ago has gone up in like $200 to $300, right? And so I still need the laptop. I'm still hoping for a discount, but what's the truth of the matter? It's not going back, and that's what I like to share with people about real estate. We can hold out. I can hold out for Apple to have some kind of discount sale and decrease their laptops by 50%, but you and I all know that's less likely to happen, right? But in the meantime, having a functional computer is preventing me from what I need to do in life, right? You got to ask yourself the same thing with your investments or your real estate. How long is me delaying this decision actually costing me? And so when we talk about demand, right? That's my demand from a buyer's perspective. Yet for sellers, it's the same thing, because one thing that I like to do is that buyers are not going to rescue your poorly priced listing. If you have not been taking care of your home, buyers are not going to overpay. They don't have to. They have options. There are more homes on the market. There are more sellers that are motivated to sell or cash out or whatever it is they're looking to do, get money from their retirement. And working with an agent, working with a realtor like me is going to be able to help you structure that offer so that way it's a win-win for both of you guys. people talk about how much money you need to bring to a home. It's not affordable. What do you mean exactly when you say that? Because if we're able to find you a grant and we're able to negotiate your closing costs and we're able to get you to closing with the least amount of money, is it really not affordable? Or is that just what your conversation, what your environment is speaking to their perspective, right? So drop your questions in the comments. I'm looking at the chat, so I'll be sure to answer them as we come up. The second thing that we wanted to talk about are HOAs. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about HOAs, because I see different opinions. I live in an HOA. I actually prefer it. I don't care for my HOA, yet I do appreciate the benefits that come with it, the amenities, the order. For me, mostly it's just order, right? I mean, the neighborhood looks uniformed and things like that. However, what we are seeing is that a lot of HOAs, especially across Texas, they're starting to increase, and that's impacting the affordability of buyers, right? So buyers are taking a look at that. And if you're in the market, then you want to take a look at what are the HOA fees. Now, they're not a part of your mortgage payment for single family homes. They're usually billed annually, but they are billed, and HOAs do have a right to foreclose. And so before you move into that community, you want to take a look and ask your realtor, what are the HOA fees in this community? If it's a condo, those fees are monthly. And so what are the fees associated with the ownership of this home? That's going to save you a lot of headache and frustration come January when your HOA dues are due. So you want to make sure that you're inquiring about all of the carrying costs about your home, not just the payment, not just the sales price. What's the insurance? What's the HOAs? Typically, your taxes are going to be escrowed into your mortgage payment. So when I say escrowed, it just means that they're being held into your account. And so that way, at the end of the year, when your taxes are due, they're paid. When your insurance is due, they're paid. This is important because I know you guys have heard about tax liens. We don't want you to lose your house because somebody on the internet learned about tax liens, right? So that's one of the benefits. Also, as we're talking about what happened this week in Houston, Pearland, they just gained another employment signal. There's going to be a new 400,000 square foot manufacturing company. It's for optical transceivers and AI infrastructure. Now, I don't have a dog in this fight. However, a mentor once told me that residential follows commercial. So if you want to know what's happening with the area that you're interested in, the growth, the opportunity for appreciation, what's happening on the commercial side. If they're going to bring in a 400,000 square foot in manufacturing capacity facility, then you better believe they're going to have some employees that go with it. So residential follows commercial. Pearland is growing because they just brought some new companies in, and we're going to see where that goes. The Pearland Economic Development Corporation announced that the expansion should happen by July 14th. So actually that just happened. We'll see when they get actually in place. West Houston and Katy, they keep adding into their infrastructure. So what we're starting to see is growth expanding beyond the suburbs and the inner city 610 loops, Beltway 8 loops, right? We're starting to see Houston push past those seams. If you're looking for affordability, you're finding great opportunities west in Katy, south in Sharon and Manville, north in Humble, Kingwood, Porter. These are all areas that are on the outskirts of Houston that still have great affordability if that's important to you. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, especially when you're relocating to Houston, is where will you be working? A lot of us are remote, a lot of us are not. And traffic in Houston is crazy. You want to make sure that you're not just buying for a price that leaves you, first of all, on the road all day because you have to commute for work, yet also that it impacts your quality of life. Like I said, I mean, you got to kind of holistically think about these things. Be mindful about your budget, but also be realistic about what's important to you in the community that you live in, because you will be spending most of your time there. And then let's see, final thing is, like I said, for my sellers that have owned for some years, over 5 years, 5 to 7 years, 7 to 10 years, what is you going to do next with that equity that you've gone ahead and built? What strategies are you going to implement? Now, it's not to say that you have to sell. Yet some of you guys are thinking about it, and you know that when you sell your home, you're going to be able to walk away with a significant amount of net proceeds. And I always ask my clients, what is your intention with the net proceeds of the sale of your home? What's up, Jadam? What are you going to do for it, right? Because one of the biggest fails, one of the biggest, blunders that I see people do is they sell their home and they don't have a plan, and then they spend those net proceeds shortly after they're back at square one. You have the opportunity with the equity in your home to leverage it, to buy investment properties, to pay off debt, to relocate, to help perhaps somebody else, and there are strategies that you can use. So of course, my goal is to, number one, create an opportunity, guys, for you guys to have real conversations about what's happening in real estate market with somebody that is actually in the real estate market. I've been in real estate for 15 years. It's not really about me, it's about you, yet I also know that it's important that when we are listening to people, we have context to their experience. So if this is something that you guys would like to see more of, if you think of a question, drop it in the chat. Yet please hit that subscribe button, because what we're going to be looking to do is definitely at least once a week, a couple times maybe more, should something come up. We want to talk about Houston real estate, move up, and cash flow strategies, and I trust this helps. You guys have a great day. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.